Hi, Emily. I just wanted to kind of get you up to date on our class today. We did a bunch of the Tashmas, and by knowing how this works, you're going to be actually able to better understand class tomorrow. So, the beauty about what's going to happen right now in our Talmud piece is we're going to really follow the Mishnah, kind of looking at different things that we've established in the Mishnah is mitziot Shiloh. And Rav is going to say, hey, all of these things people can keep even though it doesn't have a siman and even though it doesn't have a particular identifying object. And why can you keep them? And most of these things you can keep, can't you even, and you're keeping them even before the finder knows that they're gone. So of course these are actually examples of Yeush Shalom Midat, a basically retroactive Yeush. I know later that I just didn't discover it. I'm going to say this is Hefker. I'm going to say this is abandoned property. I'm not going to come and get it again because I know I can't get it. No one's going to believe me that it's mine. So I'm going to abandon it. And if I don't abandon, and if I do abandon it, then I mean it makes no difference if I figured it out beforehand, during, or later. I mean it's the same thing. So basically, there is such a thing as retroactive use. So Rob is going to kind of go through different pieces of the Mishnah, trying to show that it actually all of this proves that there is such a thing as retroactive Yush. And of course, Abaye is going to show that that's not the case. And for every single case, he's going to show, well, you could actually think of it differently, meaning, Rava, you actually might, I mean, Rava, you could be right, but you might not be right, right? So again, all we have to prove is that Rava might not be right. And that's enough to say, well, actually, maybe this concept of Yeush Shalom Midat just doesn't work. Maybe you actually have to wait until someone specifically says Yeush in some kind of way, or it's totally known, and then you can use it and not beforehand. So that's what we're going to see today. And we're going to go through a couple of Tashmas that try to prove it. So here's our first one right here. Tashma number 2 is with some money. Ma'ot ma'ot mefuzarin. Right, scattered money. And he's going to say, oh, this is a great, and that's in our Mishnah, you get to keep it. And here's probably the case, Rob is going to claim. You dropped your money around 1:30, a finder found it at about 3 o'clock, and the owner, who is certainly, once he understands that this money's gone, he's going to say, I'm never going to find it again. It doesn't have a siman. Someone picked it up. And so once he finds it, he's going to say, Yeush. So if he's going to say it's Hefker here, if he's going to Mia'esh and say it's Hefker here, we can kind of say it was as if he said Hefker at the moment that it was found, and the finder should not be worried at all. And so it's a great case. Of course, what's Abaye going to say? Abaye is going to try to do what? Abaye is going to try to say, no, 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 no. At either the moment when the finder finds it, it's the same moment where the loser has discovered it's gone, or maybe even the loser has discovered it's gone earlier. And and Abai is going to say, well, what is it that we know about our relationship to money in general? Well, we know that money is actually kind of important to us, that it actually means something to us. And because of that, because of its importance to us, when we have money in our pockets, we're going to be constantly checking to see if we have it in our pocket. And really, the moment we check and we're like, oh my goodness, it's not there anymore, that moment is going to be the moment precisely there that we're going to Mia'esh and we're going to say it's gone. I'm never going to get it back. I'm declaring it Hefker, right? And because you're constantly doing this, is the money there? Is the money there? Is the money there? There's really not so much time that's going to go on from the moment that it's lost until you do that. So actually, what Abai is going to do is say, I believe that the loser figures out that it's gone long before the finder has actually found it. So, Rava, you cannot use this as a principle of Yeush Shalom Midat. It could very easily be the reason why he's able to use this is because of that Yeush was performed before the finder actually found it, right? And so we kind of showed that in the ping and pong, right? The ping side saying, surely he didn't know it fell from him, and the pong side saying, No, but a person constantly feels his pockets each and every hour. Here also the person is feeling his pocket every moment. So kind of he's going to know that beforehand. So that's kind of our tashma. We're going to move to so again Abaye tries to push the losers kind of understanding that it's gone much sooner to the actual losing of the object. All right, now we're on to Tashma 3, and we're going to see something very similar to a lot of these that we're going to now look um, at uh, at figs and specifically at a baker's loaf of bread. Now, what we said before was our Mishnah says very clearly a baking loaf of bread. If you a baker's loaf of bread from a professional bakery, you get to keep that. Why is that? Because everyone's buying from that bakery. The bakery doesn't have any siman about who owns that loaf that was bought. So we assume there's no way that that person can prove that it's theirs if it falls out of their hands. And so that's a great case of mitzi of this is a case of finders keepers. And so Rava sets up the situation like this again, right? At about 1:30, it was lost. The finder finds it about 3 o'clock, and the person doesn't really realize it's gone until about 4 o'clock. And once they do, they're like, "Oh, I'm never going to find it again. I declare it hefker." So Rava's going to say this is definitely a case where that hefker declaring happens here. It's as if it was already active back at 3 o'clock. But of course, what is Abaye going to do? Abaye is going to claim no. Abaye is going to claim there's something about this object. Just like the money was something that I'm constantly checking for, there's something about this object that's going to make me aware of its being lost much sooner than you, Rava, believe. And of course, that is the maybe the smell of the wafting bread that's gone, or maybe it's the heaviness or importance of this object. And of course, that's exactly what the what the Talmud says here. The Talmud says that agav de yakir, and yakir here, even though yakar in a modern Hebrew is means expensive, yakir in I think it's Yakir is got to be up here somewhere. I think Rashi says Yakir. Where is it? Um, oh, well, huh. Rashi says Yakir means kaved or heavy. So I'm sorry I can't find it at this moment, but it is here. Um, and so Rashi says because it's such a heavy item, you're going to know that it's gone very quickly. And so that's a pretty good. So again, Abaye goes ahead and has won the debate by pushing back the moment that you find it long before the moment you declare it hefker, long before the finder finds it. Okay. And now we're on to number 4. So here we have, again, another piece of the Talmud about Lishonot Shel Argaman. These are bundles or flax of strips of purple. Now, things dyed purple were very expensive back in the time of the Talmud, and we know that these are mitziot shelo, that these are something that a finder is allowed to keep. And Rav is going to say, this is a great example of my principle being operative because at 1:30 it was lost, at about 3 o'clock it was found, and the owner doesn't realize it was found because this is not heavy stuff. It's not heavy stuff that you're going to really notice that it's gone. Maybe it's not money that you're constantly checking. So here is obviously a case where the Ushalomidat must be effective. And of course, Abaye is going to say, no, there's something about this stuff that is going to make me aware very quickly that it's gone. And what is that? Chashivi. And we had this term before in our earlier sugya. It's chashivi. It's an important thing. Like these are actually expensive items. Blue dye, purple dye, very expensive back in the time. Someone's going to be constantly kind of searching and making sure and checking them to make sure they have everything. And of course, then this brings us to our next tashma. And so this is the final one we dealt with today. And interestingly enough, we're no longer going to look back to our Mishnah. For some reason, we've left our Mishnah, and now we're going to be looking at a Breita, which I've mentioned that if a Breita and a Mishnah have a wrestling match, they're going to tie because they're each of equal weight. If a Mishnah and the Torah have a wrestling match, Torah is going to win. Breita, Torah is going to win. But a Breita versus a Mishnah, those are kind of equal. So, but now we're moving to a Breita and asking an interesting question. One that found money in a synagogue or a study hall or in any place where there are a lot of people, mitziot shelo, because he despaired from it, but surely he does not know it fell from him. He's constantly checking his pocket. So I brought this and asked everyone to kind of put it in the ping and pong, because here, this one is kind of interesting because we're starting actually with, it's Abaye who's actually talking first. So the Tashma is one that found, so the Breita says, one that found money in a synagogue or study hall in any place where there are a lot of people, that is, he actually gets to keep that. And Abaye is going to say, of course he gets to keep it. He gets to keep it because he realizes this is a huge study hall. There's so many people here. It's so crowded. I'm not going to be able to search on the ground for what I lost. This is something that that a finder can keep only because I've declared it hefker, meaning that the reason why, if it wasn't a study hall, and if I wasn't a study hall, you wouldn't be allowed to take it. And if it wasn't that there were a lot of people, you wouldn't be allowed to take it because I didn't declare it hefker. So he's saying the only reason that you can actually take it is because it's an impossible situation to find. So normal situations, Abai would say my piece actually actually my idea is the functioning idea that there's no such thing as Yeush Midat, that actually we wait till someone despairs, and then and then Rava comes back and says, "What are you talking about? Actually, this is actually a case of this is actually a case of where he doesn't know that it fell from him. This is actually a case where he didn't know, and actually the person is allowed to keep it, but he hasn't realized it yet that it's gone. So it's kind of just like the earlier case, that it actually does prove Rob is saying my principle of um I'm not going to know until I leave and go home and kind of take all and kind of clear my pockets after my night in the study hall or in the synagogue, and kind of put everything on the table. And then I realized, oh, my money's gone. I better declare it hefker. And the person has long ago found it. And of course, Abai comes back and says, no, no, no. He's constantly checking his pockets. He knows exactly when it's gone. And because he knows exactly when it's gone, that's why it's mitziot shelo. So again, Abai using kind of the same technique as before, and Rava, and basically each of them looking at the same proof and saying, I believe actually this proves mine to be more correct, but obviously it's not definitive enough that we have to move on. The class ended by asking a question about this. About this case, because it was like, wait a second, didn't we see, if we go back to kind of our list of these different Mishnahs, we saw Tashman number 2 was exactly about money that fell. And now we actually, Tashman number 4, Tashman number 5, we're seeing that exact thing again. And so we ended class by asking the question of why would the Gemara bring up a similar case again? And why not, when they do it, do we not just refer and say, didn't we just answer that question? And we asked that in class, and actually Tosfot bring up the exact same question, right? They ask, why are we asking this question again? There must be something fundamental about being in a study hall versus just on a way that would make this an interesting, a necessary case that we wouldn't have known what to do. We would have thought something or assumed something else. And that's where we ended class today.